Imagine holding in your hand a simple 1 peso coin dated 1978 and realizing that this small round piece of metal is not just currency, but a window into the economic struggles, the political shifts, the cultural pride, and the identity of an entire nation. The 1978 1 peso coin of the Philippines is more than a coin. It is a story engraved in nickel brass that represents the direction of a country during the rule of Ferdinand Marcos. It was born during a time when the Philippine economy was under pressure, inflation was climbing, and the administration sought ways to symbolize stability, strength, and national unity through its coinage to the casual observer. It is a coin with a portrait, but to the historian, it is a reflection of a government that was crafting its legacy and controlling its imagery at a time when the world was watching and the nation itself was in the midst of change. The 1 peso coin of 1978 carried the bust of Jose Rizal, the national hero who had become the eternal face of patriotism, sacrifice, and intellectual independence in the Philippines. His portrait on the obverse of the coin was not simply a design choice, it was a deliberate reinforcement of national pride during an era of political tension. Rizal had always been used as a unifying figure by governments. But under the Marcos administration, his image was meant to bind the people under one national spirit while quietly covering the cracks of unrest brewing beneath the surface. The reverse of the coin featured the coat of arms of the Republic of the Philippines with its bold sun stars and symbols of independence. This was the official statement of sovereignty, stability, and unity placed into the hands of millions of Filipinos every single day. The design elements themselves were carefully balanced to combine tradition and modernity as the Philippines sought to stand tall on the international stage, even while facing its own struggles at home. The 1978 1 peso coin was minted in large quantities by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas as part of the ongoing circulation series, and it became the daily companion of workers, farmers, students, and business people alike. But the coin was not just about monetary value, it was about history. During the 1970s, the Philippines was experiencing the challenges of martial law, which Marcos had declared in 1972. The coin, therefore, must be understood not only as an economic tool, but also as a political instrument. Coins of this time were standardized with durable alloys, such as nickel brass, not only to reduce costs and resist wear, but also to symbolize permanence and strength, as if to reflect a government that insisted it would endure despite turmoil and international criticism. Production of the 1978 1 peso coin itself also ties into the global economic conditions. Of the time, the late 1970s saw fluctuations in the value of metals, and many countries were experimenting with new alloys to maintain affordability while ensuring longevity. The Philippines adopted these measures as well, which is why the 1978 issue used a strong composition that could handle years of circulation. This practical aspect may seem technical, but it highlights how the coin represents both national pride and international adaptation. Collectors today look at the 1978 1 peso coin with fascination, not because it is rare in the traditional sense, but because it embodies the spirit of its era. It is a coin that tells the story of Rizal being used as a symbol of unity. It tells the story of a government trying to project permanence through design. It tells the story of an economy where the 1 peso still had substantial purchasing power and could buy essential goods, unlike today, where inflation has reduced its practical value. The 1978 1 peso coin was once the heartbeat of everyday transactions. A coin that passed from hand to hand, carrying with it both economic function and symbolic weight. As you dive into its history, you realize that this coin bridges many layers: the political agenda of the Marcos era, the enduring symbolism of Jose Rizal, the economic realities of the late 1970s, and the cultural significance of national emblems engraved on circulating money for a collector or historian. The 1978 1 peso coin is a puzzle piece that fits into the larger mosaic of Philippine history. Each scratch and worn surface on the surviving coins today carries silent testimony to the lives it has passed through and the moments it has witnessed. So when you hold this coin, you are not just holding money, you are holding a moment in time when a nation was struggling to balance pride and pressure, when symbols mattered as much as policy, when every Filipino had a piece of national identity jingling in their pocket. This is why the 1978 1 peso coin deserves not just a glance, but a deep exploration of its origins, its symbolism, its circulation, its cultural weight, and its legacy, making it a story worthy of a long, detailed, and unforgettable journey into the heart of numismatic history. The year is 1978, and the Philippines is in the midst of profound transformation. The nation is under martial law declared by Ferdinand Marcos 6 years earlier, and, while the political environment is tense with censorship, strict control, and promises of a new society, the everyday lives of Filipinos revolve around their work, their families, their hopes, and also their coins. One of the most familiar sights in their hands and pockets is the 1 peso coin issued that year. A coin that many at the time saw as simply money, but that today stands as a piece of living history, carrying in its design the story of the Filipino people, their identity, their struggles, and their resilience. At the heart of the 1978 1 peso coin is the face of Dr. Jose Rizal, the Philippine national hero, whose life and sacrifice had long been revered across the islands. His portrait on the obverse side was not chosen lightly. Rizal represented intelligence, resistance to oppression, and love of country ideals that every Filipino child learned about in school. His novels and writings had challenged colonial rule, and his execution in 1896 had ignited a flame of revolution decades. Later under Marcos, his image was once again used to remind people of patriotism and unity, but it also served another purpose. The government understood that Rizal was a unifying figure above politics, and by placing him prominently on the nation's currency, the state reinforced the idea that despite unrest, there was a deeper bond that tied all Filipinos together, a bond rooted in their history and their heroes. The reverse side of the coin carried the coat of arms of the Republic of the Philippines, proudly displayed with the sun shining and the 3 stars representing Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. This official symbol was both a reminder of independence and a declaration of sovereignty and strength to anyone who examined the coin. Each emblem etched into the design had meaning, the sun representing freedom, the stars representing the unity of the main island groups, the shield with its blue, red, and white colors reflecting the national flag. This was not just decoration, it was an intentional statement that every coin placed in circulation carried with it the message of national pride. The alloy of the coin was nickel brass, a durable composition chosen for its resistance to wear and its ability to stay bright in circulation in the 1970s. The Philippines, like many nations, was grappling with global economic pressures. Metal prices were shifting. Inflation was affecting everyday life, and governments across the world were rethinking the cost of producing their currency. The decision to mint the 1 peso coin in this composition was practical, but it also reflected the government's desire to issue a coin that would last in circulation and not quickly tarnish in the eyes of the public. The 1 peso coin in 1978 held real value, unlike today, where a single peso buys almost nothing. Back then, it was a coin of purchasing power. With 1 peso, a Filipino could buy essential goods like rice bread or public transportation fares. It was the coin of daily life exchanged in markets, jeepneys, schools, and workplaces every time it passed from one hand to another. It carried not just economic weight, but symbolic weight for the person who held it. Imagine holding a small coin in your hand, a simple piece of metal that many might overlook. But within its design lies a powerful story of a nation, its struggles, its victories, and its cultural identity. This is the story of the 1 Piso coin from the year 1982. A coin that is more than just currency. It is a silent witness to the history of the Philippines, to the economic conditions of the early 80s, to the leadership that shaped the country, and to the artistry and symbolism that every Filipino carried in their pockets every day. The 1 Piso 1982 coin belongs to the new design series, which was introduced by the Central Bank of the Philippines starting in 1983, but the coin itself had roots from designs prepared earlier during the transitional years of the late 70s and early 80s. The coin was minted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and crafted with precision to symbolize both stability and change. The obverse of the coin bears the portrait of Jose Rizal, the national hero whose life and sacrifice for freedom made him an enduring symbol of Philippine independence. His image on the 1 Piso coin of 1982 was not chosen by chance. It was a deliberate reminder to every Filipino of the courage and intellect needed to build a strong and independent nation. The placement of Rizal on the 1 Piso coin elevated its cultural and historic weight because every time the coin passed from hand to hand, it carried with it the reminder of his dream for the Filipino people. The reverse side of the coin features the official seal of the Central Bank of the Philippines, with the year 1982 inscribed below this design, reflected not only the authority of the central bank as the sole issuer of Philippine currency, but also its role in ensuring monetary stability at a time when the country faced economic challenges. Inflation was a growing concern during the early 80s, and the government was attempting to stabilize the economy while facing mounting debt and political pressures. The circulation of the 1 Piso 1982 coin came during this tense period, making it a coin not just of trade, but of resilience. Made of nickel brass, the coin has a golden appearance, symbolizing value and durability, with a diameter of 25 millimeters and a weight of approximately 6 grams. It was crafted to last years in circulation while being practical for everyday use. Its milled edge provided security against counterfeiting, a common problem in the region at that time, and gave the coin a distinct texture, recognizable even by touch. To understand the full history of the 1 Piso 1982 coin, we must also look at its broader context. This was the era of President Ferdinand Marcos, who had declared martial law in 1972, and continued to wield immense power by 1982, the Philippines was under tight control politically. Yet Filipinos were resilient in their everyday lives. Markets bustled, jeepneys ran daily, and coins like the 1 Piso of 1982 exchanged hands countless times each day in groceries, in jeepney fares, in schools, and in small businesses. For many Filipinos, this coin was more than money. It was a tool for survival, a symbol of daily life, and a quiet reminder of Rizal's dream collectors today. Prize the 1 Piso 1982 coin, not only for its historic value, but also for its connection to a unique period in Philippine history. It represents a moment when design, politics, economy, and national identity converged in a small, circular piece of metal. Numismatists pay attention to the condition of the coin, its mint luster, its strike quality, and whether it has retained its fine details over the decades. Some coins with minimal wear and strong clarity of Rizal's profile and the central bank seal are considered valuable, especially when preserved in uncirculated condition. Although millions of these coins were minted, the passage of time, circulation wear, and changes in currency systems have reduced their availability, making them desirable for collectors. The legacy of the 1 Piso 1982 coin also lies in its place within the evolution of Philippine coinage. As the years passed, the Philippines continued to update its currency systems, replacing coins and banknotes as the economy modernized. Yet the 1982 1 Piso coin remains a snapshot of that particular era, an artifact of the Marcos years, an emblem of national pride through the image of Rizal and a witness to the resilience of ordinary Filipinos who used it daily. If you hold this coin today, you are not simply holding metal, you are holding decades of history and stories. You are holding a piece of art created by engravers who carefully etched Rizal's likeness. You are holding an economic tool that carried the weight of daily trade in an era of difficulty and hope. You are holding a national symbol that speaks of independence, resilience, and the dream of a brighter future for the Philippines. When we examine the 1 peso coin of 1982, we need to step back into the late 70s and early 80s and picture what life was like for Filipinos at that time. The Philippines was under the leadership of President Ferdinand Marcos, and the nation was living through martial law declared in 1972 and officially lifted in 1981, though the effects and powers of the government still remained strong. The country was facing economic issues, inflation was slowly eating away at the value of the peso, foreign debt was mounting, and people were caught between resilience and uncertainty. It was in this environment that the 1 peso coin became a tool of survival and a part of daily exchange. The coin itself was designed as part of the New Design series, which would eventually run from 1983 until 1994, but prototypes and mintage planning had begun earlier. Coins of the previous series had started to feel outdated, and the Central Bank of the Philippines wanted to modernize the look and function of the national currency. The choice of Jose Rizal for the obverse side of the coin was a deliberate act. Rizal was not only the foremost national hero, he was also a figure of education, intellect, sacrifice, and freedom values that the government wanted to be attached to the national identity, even in the form of coins. Rizal's portrait was engraved with careful detail. His collar, his facial profile, his calm and resolute expression, all designed to remind the holder of his dignity and vision. The reverse of the coin carried the official seal of the Central Bank of the Philippines, surrounded by the words Republika ng Pilipinas, with the mint year 1982. This seal symbolized authority and trust. It carried within it the weight of the national institution responsible for the issuance and regulation of money. The seal included a stylized sun and stars, a nod to the Philippine flag, and a statement of sovereignty and identity. The technical specifications of the coin added another layer of meaning. The coin was struck in nickel brass, a copper alloy, with a golden tone making it durable and distinct. It weighed about 6 grams and measured 25 millimeters in diameter, with a reeded edge that helped prevent counterfeiting in an age when fake coins were a threat to trade. The choice of alloy was practical, but it also gave the coin a bright golden shine that made it visually stand out from other lower denomination coins. But coins are not just pieces of metal. They are reflections of everyday life in 1982. The 1 peso coin could buy a jeepney ride in many parts of Metro Manila. It could purchase small snacks in sari-sari stores. It was used in classrooms by children who needed to pay for pencils or notebooks. It was used in public markets where every peso mattered to families, trying to stretch their budgets each time Rizal's face changed hands. It was more than currency. It was a reminder of the hero who dreamed of Filipino freedom collectors today. Understand the importance of this context when they examine the 1982 1 peso coin. They do not just look at its mint luster or its strike quality. They also think of the story it tells of a nation under pressure, of a people striving to endure, and of a government using national symbols to maintain a sense of identity. Despite the economic storm, numismatists also compare this coin with earlier and later peso issues, noting how the portrait of Rizal evolved, how the lettering styles shifted, and how the materials changed over the years. When the new generation currency coin series was launched decades later, the designs were simplified, but the 1982 coin remains one of the classic golden-toned pieces that stands out in memory. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of history, a coin that has silently witnessed the passing of decades. The Sekou Piso coin of 1984 is more than just a medium of exchange. It is a window into the social, political, and cultural landscape of the Philippines. During a transformative era, the story of this coin begins at a time when the Philippine nation was under the leadership of President Ferdinand Marcos, and the country was at the height of a period marked by both rapid modernization efforts and deepening political unrest. The 2-peso coin, introduced in 1983 and continued in 1984, represented not only an adjustment to the currency system, but also a carefully designed piece of national identity. This coin was larger in size compared to the 1 peso and carried a value that made it significant for everyday transactions at a time when the economy faced inflationary pressures. The obverse side of the coin bore the profile of Andres Bonifacio, one of the most revered national heroes of the Philippines. Bonifacio symbolized resistance, bravery, and the struggle for independence as the leader of the Katipunan movement, which spearheaded the Philippine Revolution against Spanish rule. Choosing Bonifacio as the face of the coin was not just a random act of commemoration. It was a deliberate political and cultural choice, highlighting the need to draw inspiration from the struggles of the past in order to strengthen the nation of the present. His image stood as a reminder of Filipino pride and resilience, and by placing him on the 2-peso coin, the government sought to link his revolutionary spirit to the everyday lives of Filipinos handling the currency. On the reverse side, the coin displayed the official seal of the Republic of the Philippines along with the year of minting 1984, a period of significant transition for the country. The seal itself stood for sovereignty, unity, and the vision of the state. It tied together the emblem of the nation with the practical symbol of monetary value, reflecting how state authority extended into every sphere of life, including commerce and trade. The production of the 2-peso coin was managed by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, and its introduction was part of a broader effort to modernize the currency system during the 1980s. The coin was minted primarily in copper-nickel alloy, giving it durability and a distinctive metallic sheen that distinguished it from smaller denominations. At that time, the design was part of the Flora and Fauna series, which the central bank adopted to showcase both national heroes and the rich biodiversity of the Philippines. This series was symbolic because it combined historical figures with natural heritage, creating a powerful narrative of national pride in both people and land. The 1984 2-peso coin was widely circulated and became an essential part of daily commerce in marketplaces, jeepney fairs, and small-scale trade. Filipinos would have held this coin countless times, often without realizing the layers of meaning embedded in its design to the ordinary citizen. The coin was a practical tool, but to historians and numismatists, it was a reflection of a national story unfolding in the midst of economic challenges and political turbulence. During the mid-1980s, inflation was a growing concern, and the value of the peso was under pressure. Coins, such as the 2-peso, had to be produced in sufficient quantities to keep up with transactional demands, yet the government also faced budgetary challenges in sustaining the minting of higher denomination coins. This made the 2-peso an interesting case in currency history because it was both highly functional and at the same time part of an experimental phase of Philippine coinage. The Flora and Fauna series marked a departure from older designs and sought to bring fresh symbolism into the currency system. Collectors today view the 1984 2-peso coin as a valuable piece, not necessarily because of its monetary worth, but because of its place in the story of Philippine currency. Its design, featuring Bonifacio, is a timeless reminder of the revolutionary spirit, while the reverse connects the coin to state authority and sovereignty. When numismatists evaluate such coins, they look at the year of minting, the metal composition, the mintage numbers, and the state of preservation. While many of these coins circulated heavily and thus show signs of wear, some well-preserved examples command collector interest particularly. Because coins from the mid-1980s are becoming increasingly harder to find in pristine condition. To truly understand the depth of this coin, one must situate it within the broader historical moment. 1984 was a year marked by economic crisis, social unrest, and growing opposition to the Marcos regime. The presence of Bonifacio on the coin resonated strongly with Filipinos who saw in him the symbol of the common man's fight against oppression. His placement on a circulating coin meant that his legacy was carried in the hands of millions, daily reinforcing a sense of connection to the past. In a way, the 2-piso coin of 1984 was not just currency. It was a silent storyteller linking the struggles of independence with the realities of modern governance. It was an emblem of national pride at a time when the Philippines was wrestling with its own identity and future direction. Its survival in the hands of collectors and historians today ensures that its story continues to be told. The 1984 2-piso coin carries with it a story that stretches far beyond its metallic form. Because it was born in a time when the Philippines was navigating political storms, economic pressures, and a population that sought to balance tradition with the challenges of modernization. To expand on its history, we need to go deeper into its symbolism, its usage, its cultural impact, and its significance for collectors today, as well as how it fit into the broader framework of Philippine coinage. When the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas first issued the 20-piso coin in the early 1980s, it was responding to a practical need. The inflation of the late 1970s and early 1980s had eroded the purchasing power of the peso, making higher denomination coins necessary for everyday use. The introduction of the second piso coin in 1983 and its continuation into 1984 represented not just an economic adjustment, but also a redesign of how the Filipino people interacted with money for the first time. Many ordinary citizens found themselves regularly handling coins of higher value that could pay for meals in small eateries, jeepney rides, and household goods. This shift symbolized how inflation was creeping into everyday life, while at the same time, the government attempted to maintain a sense of order through monetary design. The face of Andres Bonifacio was not chosen randomly. His portrait had long been a subject of debate in Philippine history, as he was often overshadowed by Jose Rizal. Yet Bonifacio represented the grassroots, the working class, the man of action rather than words. He was not only a revolutionary leader but also a symbol of defiance against colonial oppression. His placement on the 2-piso coin gave him a powerful presence in the national consciousness, reminding people of the sacrifices made for independence at a time when many Filipinos themselves were questioning the freedoms they had under the martial law era. In 1984, the image of Bonifacio was a bold statement. And while the coin itself was simply legal tender, the symbolism was deeply tied to the identity and emotions of the people. If we study the reverse side of the coin, the seal of the Republic of the Philippines becomes another layer of meaning. Sun, the stars, and the shield symbolized sovereignty and national integrity. It told a story of a state that wished to portray stability, even when the political environment was anything but stable. In 1984, opposition to the government was growing. Street protests were intensifying, and the assassination of Ninoy Aquino in 1983 had shaken the political order. Yet in the midst of all this turmoil, the national seal stamped onto every coin was a declaration that the government remained the guardian of national order. Every coin carried that assertion, whether people accepted it or not. The composition of the coin itself in copper-nickel alloy is also significant. This blend was chosen for its durability since coins had to endure constant circulation. The metallic quality gave the coin a distinctive look and feel, making it different from the smaller one. Peso coin, the weight and shine of the 2-piso, gave it a sense of authority. It felt valuable in the hand, and it stood out in wallets and purses. In markets across the country, you could see stall owners piling up coins like these from customers buying vegetables, fish, rice, and daily essentials. The 2-piso was practical, but it also had presence. It became part of the rhythm of everyday life. 4. Collectors today, the 1984 2-piso coin represents a bridge between two important phases of Philippine coinage, the earlier Filipino series and the later Flora and Fauna series in which it belonged. The Flora and Fauna series was not merely an artistic experiment. It was part of a conscious attempt to highlight the richness of the Philippines both in history and in nature. This design philosophy aimed to build national pride and make every coin a miniature history lesson or cultural symbol, while the set piso focused on a hero. Other coins in the series featured flora and fauna that tied the Filipino identity to the land itself. In this way, the currency became not only a means of payment, but also a teaching tool and a daily reminder of heritage. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered if it was just loose change or a silent witness to a nation's journey, a small object carrying within it the pulse of history, culture, and transformation? What if I told you that the 2-piso coin of 1989 is not just a piece of metal, but a living record of the Philippines at a time of great political shifts, economic struggles, and cultural pride? This is more than money. It is the story of a nation carved into copper-nickel alloy waiting to be discovered. The 2-piso coin issued in 1989 stands as part of the Flora and Fauna series, a revolutionary numismatic program introduced by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to bring the nation's rich biodiversity into the hands of its citizens, and to highlight the Philippines as one of the most biologically diverse countries in the world. Before this series, coins primarily bore images of national heroes and political figures, but beginning in 1983, the government launched this bold initiative to blend patriotism with environmental awareness, and by 1989, the 2-piso coin had fully established itself as one of the most symbolic pieces in the series. On the obverse of the 1989 2-piso coin, we see the image of Andres Bonifacio, a national revolutionary, hero who stands as the father of the Philippine Revolution against Spanish colonial rule. His portrait appears alongside inscriptions that remind the holder of his enduring importance. Bonifacio was more than a figurehead. He was the embodiment of courage and resistance, and his inclusion on the 2-piso coin was no accident. It was a deliberate act to remind Filipinos of their resilience and their ongoing fight for justice and equality during the late 1980s, a decade still shaped by the shadow of dictatorship and the rise of democracy. The reverse of the 1989 2-piso coin reflects the unique character of the Flora and Fauna series. It depicts the coconut palm scientifically known as Cocos nucifera, a plant that has been central to Filipino life for centuries, providing food, shelter, livelihood, and trade. The coconut is known as the tree of life in the Philippines, and its placement on the coin tied together the themes of economic survival, cultural symbolism, and natural abundance. During this period, the coconut industry played a major role in the Philippine economy, making the image not only a cultural emblem, but also an economic one. The technical details of the coin also reveal much about its purpose and design, struck in copper-nickel. The coin has a diameter of 31 millimeters and a weight of 14 grams, making it relatively large and hefty. Compared to smaller denominations, its reeded edge added both a security feature and a sense of tactile identity, so that even without sight, one could distinguish it from other coins minted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The 1989 2-piso coin carried the minting quality and artistry that connected Philippine coinage to global standards while still retaining a unique identity. What makes the 1989 issue so significant is not just its physical design, but the historical backdrop of its circulation. This was a time when the Philippines was transitioning from the authoritarian rule of Ferdinand Marcos into the more democratic framework under President Corazon Aquino. The People Power Revolution of 1986 had reshaped the political landscape, and by 1989, the country was navigating new challenges. The peso's strength against foreign currencies fluctuated, the national economy struggled with inflation and debt. Yet coins like the 2 piso remained steady daily reminders of resilience in the hands of ordinary citizens. As we dive deeper into its historical context, we see that this coin circulated widely across markets, jeepney rides, sari stores, and public schools. It became a tangible link between rural farmers selling coconuts, fishermen along the coasts, teachers buying chalk, and children purchasing snacks. This simple coin connected millions of lives, and in its daily use became part of the rhythm of Filipino existence. A nation undergoing recovery after years of turmoil still trusted its currency as a foundation of normal life collectors. Today view the 2 piso 1989 coin not only for its face value, but as a treasured artifact in numismatics. Coins from this series gain special attention because they represent a unique period in Philippine coin design when art, politics, economy, and environment converged in one series condition. Rarity and historical relevance determine collector interest, and the 1989 coin remains sought after in uncirculated condition, with luster intact. Some collectors preserve it in albums as part of the full flora and fauna set, making it a centerpiece of study and appreciation. But the coin is more than collectible metal. It is a conversation piece that speaks of the global coinage trends of the late 20th century. During this time, many nations experimented with bimetallic issues, larger denominations, and thematic designs. The Philippines, through its Flora and Fauna series, stood alongside other nations in innovating its coinage not only to reflect currency needs, but to express cultural pride by embedding nature and history into coin design. The 1989 2 piso became both modern and deeply rooted in Filipino tradition. In examining its legacy, we also uncover how this coin eventually faded out of circulation. The 2 piso denomination was later redesigned under the BSP series, shifting away from flora and fauna themes and toward simpler, more contemporary designs. Eventually, the 2 piso coin itself was demonetized and phased out, replaced by different denominations and materials. Yet the memory of the 1989 coin persists in the hearts of Filipinos who grew up using it. It carries nostalgia, a connection to childhood, and a reminder of simpler days when 2 pesos could buy a hearty snack or a bus fare. This coin is not simply a financial instrument. It is a cultural artifact. It symbolizes the Filipino struggle for independence through Bonifacio. It celebrates natural abundance through the coconut palm. It stands as a witness to political transformation in the late 1980s, and it continues to live on in the collector community as a piece of history that you can hold between your fingers. So the next time you come across a 2 piso coin from 1989, do not just see it as spare change. See it as a key to understanding a nation, a revolution, a people, and a way of life. A coin that has traveled through pockets and hands across decades, carrying with it a story far greater than its modest denomination. When we explore the 2 piso 1989 coin, we must begin by placing it within the larger historical timeline of Philippine coinage, because a coin is never just designed out of thin air. It is born out of necessity, shaped by culture, influenced by politics, and molded by the economic conditions of its era. The 1989 coin belongs to the Flora and Fauna series, a line of coins that ran from 1983 to 1994. Each denomination carefully selected to highlight the natural riches of the Philippines, along with the faces of national heroes. The decision to merge heroes and nature was intentional, as the government sought to reframe national identity after years of political turmoil. The Flora and Fauna series was a landmark departure from the Filipino series that preceded it in the 1970s, which had emphasized national leaders and statesmen alone. The move to showcase plants and animals on coinage reflected a growing global awareness of environmental conservation and the desire to use everyday objects as tools of education and patriotism. Think of it this way. Every Filipino who used these coins was subconsciously reminded of the beauty of their land, and the sacrifices of their heroes. In the case of the second Piso coin, Andres Bonifacio stood proudly on the obverse side, reminding citizens of the revolution, while the coconut palm on the reverse linked the present to the nation's agricultural lifeline. Andres Bonifacio, born in 1863, was not an elite or aristocratic leader, unlike José Rizal, who came from a more educated class. Bonifacio rose from humble beginnings in Tondo, Manila, working as a warehouse clerk and, later as a propagandist for independence. He founded the Katipunan in 1892, an underground revolutionary society that lit the spark of revolt against Spanish colonial rule. His leadership style, his charisma, and his unshakable belief in equality made him a hero of the masses. Yet his story also carries tragedy as he faced betrayal and eventual execution during internal struggles in the revolutionary movement. By placing his portrait on the second Piso coin, the Philippines honored not only his bravery, but also the common people who embodied his spirit in daily life. The coin became a small yet powerful monument to his unfinished dream of true freedom. On the reverse, the coconut palm is equally meaningful. The Philippines is one of the world's top producers of coconuts, and by the 1980s, this crop had become vital to the national economy, producing oil food products, handicrafts, and raw materials for both domestic use and international trade. The coconut is known locally as the tree of life because every part of it can be used: the fruit for food, the husk for ropes, the leaves for roofs, the trunk for lumber, even the sap for sugar and wine. Its symbolism on the coin went beyond agriculture. It was a reminder of sustainability and survival for Filipino families from Luzon to Mindanao. What if I told you that a small piece of metal minted in 1990 carries with it the weight of history, the legacy of a nation, and the story of a currency that bridged tradition and modernity? The Sukad Piso coin of 1990 is not just a coin, it is a living witness to the Philippine economy, the struggles of a young democracy, and the artistry of the country's minting heritage. The 1990 Philippine II Piso coin stands as one of the most significant circulating coins in the modern history of the Philippines, because it represents the era when the country was undergoing political transformation, economic adjustment, and cultural consolidation. The coin was first introduced as part of the new design series of Philippine currency, which was launched by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas in 1983 and carried through the 1990s. The new design series was created to modernize the currency to reflect both the achievements of the past and the aspirations of the nation, and the second Piso coin became one of the flagship denominations that carried a portrait of a national hero and an emblem of sovereignty. The 1990 issue of the 2 Piso coin was minted in nickel brass, a metal alloy chosen for its durability, affordability, and bright golden appearance, which gave the coin a distinct and prestigious look compared to the lower denominations. The obverse of the coin featured the effigy of Andres Bonifacio, one of the most revered leaders of the Philippine Revolution against Spanish colonial rule. Bonifacio, the Supremo of the Katipunan, symbolized bravery and national pride, and the decision to place his image on the second Piso coin was a deliberate choice by the central bank and government officials to remind Filipinos of the sacrifices of their ancestors in the struggle for independence. The reverse of the 1990 2 Piso coin displayed the seal of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, surrounded by the words Republika ng Pilipinas, and the denomination in clear bold type. This design was meant to ensure recognition and trustworthiness in everyday commerce. The coin was 27 millimeters in diameter and weighed 8.7 grams, with a reeded edge that discouraged counterfeiting and added tactile familiarity to users in circulation during 1990. The 2 Piso coin played a central role in everyday transactions at a time when inflation was a pressing issue in the Philippine economy. It had significant purchasing power, being used for small meals, for public transportation fares, and for simple household items. To put this in perspective, in the year 1990, a 2 Piso coin could buy a jeepney ride in Manila or a piece of bread. In a neighborhood bakery which gave the coin both economic and cultural importance, the minting of the 1992 Piso coin took place at the facilities of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Security Plant Complex, which was established to provide the country with its own independent means of producing banknotes and coins. Prior to the development of these facilities, the Philippines often relied on foreign mints, such as those in the United States and Spain, to supply its currency. But by the 1990s, the nation had fully developed its own minting capacity, making the 1992 Piso coin a symbol of self-sufficiency and national pride. Historically, the 1990 coin came at a time when the Philippines was under the presidency of Corazon Aquino, who assumed office in 1986 following the People Power Revolution that ended the Marcos regime. The country was navigating a fragile democracy and working to stabilize its institutions. The currency, including coins like the 2 Piso, became a silent but constant reminder of national identity and order in commerce throughout the period. Numismatically, the 1992 Piso coin is highly regarded among collectors because it represents a distinct transitional period in Philippine coinage. By the early 2000s, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas began phasing out the large 2 Piso coin, replacing it with smaller bimetallic issues, and eventually discontinuing the denomination altogether in everyday circulation. This makes the 1990 issue especially notable, since it was widely used but now has become a piece of history rather than a common sight in wallets and pockets. Collectors value the coin not only for its age, but also for its condition, with uncirculated or proof-like examples fetching premium interest in numismatic markets beyond its physical attributes. The 1992 Piso coin carries deep cultural symbolism. The use of Andres Bonifacio on its obverse reminds citizens of a man who represented the masses, the working class, and the revolutionary spirit that fought for liberty. Whereas many other heroes came from privileged backgrounds, Bonifacio was a self-educated man of humble origins who rose to leadership through sheer determination and courage. Placing him on the coin elevated his legacy and cemented his image in the minds of millions of Filipinos who handled the coin in daily life. This coin also mirrors the broader trend in the Philippines during the late 20th century of reinforcing national pride through currency. The choice of imagery was educational for younger generations who might not have known the story of Bonifacio in detail, but were reminded every time they handled the coin in commerce. Furthermore, the economic context of 1990 shaped the coin's significance. The Philippines was recovering from years of political turmoil and foreign debt, and the currency faced challenges in maintaining stability. The 2 Piso coin circulated alongside banknotes of higher denominations, but unlike paper money, the coin had durability and was expected to last in circulation for many years, reducing replacement costs for the central bank. This durability also meant that many of these coins remained in circulation well into the late 1990s and early 2000s, becoming a familiar sight for Filipinos across different regions. The 1992 Piso coin was also part of a global numismatic shift where many nations were moving toward higher denomination coins due to inflation and the practicality of coins over paper money for small values. Similar trends could be seen in countries like Canada, the United Kingdom, and Japan, where higher denomination coins were introduced around the same time. This placed the Philippine 2 Piso coin within a global economic and numismatic context that showed how nations were adapting to the financial realities of the late 20th century. The legacy of the 1990 2 Piso coin endures not just among collectors, but also in the memory of everyday Filipinos, who remember its weight, its golden shine, and its role in their daily lives. Today, the coin represents an artifact of national history, a reminder of the 1990s era, and a symbol of how currency can carry stories far greater than its face value when we examine the 1992 Piso coin. We are not just looking at a piece of metal, but at a chapter in the story of the Philippines, a chapter of resilience, growth, and national pride. And this is why the coin continues to fascinate historians, economists, and collectors alike. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of metal that at first glance seems almost insignificant, just a copper-plated steel coin bearing the humble value of 10 centimo. Yet behind this 2009 issue of the Philippine 10 centimo lies a story that stretches across centuries of colonial history, national identity, economic change, and the evolution of the very symbols that represent the Filipino people. This is not just a coin, it is a living document of the nation's journey, a silent witness to shifts in leadership, economic struggles, reforms in currency systems, and the continuing dialogue between the past and the present. And to truly appreciate this coin, we must travel through time beginning with the origins of the centimo itself before reaching the events that shaped the year 2009, when this small coin was minted and released into circulation. The centimo as a denomination is rooted in the broader concept of fractional currency, its name itself coming from the Spanish centimo, which denotes 1/100th of a peso, a legacy of centuries under Spanish rule when the islands were tied directly into the economic and monetary networks of a global empire. When Spain introduced its monetary system, the peso became the standard unit, and the centavo, later adapted as centimo in the Filipino language, represented its fractional part for everyday transactions. The centimo was essential because it allowed people to purchase small quantities of goods in markets that operated on a scale where every single unit of value mattered over time. The fractional coin evolved from Spanish colonial coinage to the coins introduced by the Americans during their occupation of the Philippines the early 20th century. Saw the issue of centavo coins that bore strong American iconography alongside Filipino symbols, establishing a mixed visual language of identity and authority. As independence came in 1946, the Philippines moved toward reasserting its national character in currency design, but it was not until the 1960s and 1970s that we see a stronger emphasis on Filipino heroes, indigenous imagery, and cultural motifs finding their way onto coins. The centimo became an arena where national pride could be expressed. Even in its smallest denominations by the late 20th century, changes in the economy, inflation, and shifts in purchasing power affected the perception and use of small denominations, including the 10 centimo during the Marcos-era coinage design, was centralized under the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which was tasked with modernizing the currency system and keeping it aligned with the needs of the growing economy. The 2009 10 centimo belongs to the BSP coin series, which began circulating. In 1995, this series was characterized by its uniform use of copper-plated steel for lower denominations and nickel-plated steel for higher denominations. The 10 centimo coin was small, lightweight, and coppery in appearance, featuring on its obverse the profile of Apolinario Mabini, known as the Sublime Paralytic, and the brains of the revolution. Mabini was chosen because of his intellectual contributions to the Philippine Revolution and his role in shaping the principles of governance for the new nation. His presence on the coin reflects a deliberate attempt by the Bangko Sentral to embed historical memory into everyday transactions. The reverse of the coin bore the logo of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas itself, an emblem that reinforced the authority of the central bank as the guarantor of the nation's monetary stability. The year 2009 holds particular significance in Philippine coinage history. It was a time when the nation was preparing for yet another redesign of its coins and banknotes, which would eventually culminate in the issuance of the new generation currency series in 2010 and 2011. As such, the 2009 issue of the 10 centimo coin represents one of the final years of the BSP coin series before it was phased out in favor of newer designs. Collectors today recognize the 2009 coin as both common in circulation and transitional in historical value, because it stands at the crossroads between two distinct eras of Philippine currency design. To understand Why the 10 centimo still mattered in 2009, despite inflation reducing its purchasing power. We need to examine the social and economic functions of such small denominations in Philippine life, in marketplaces, jeepney fares, and rural economies. Every coin mattered. The 10 centimo, while small, still contributed to exact change, and its absence could complicate daily commerce beyond its monetary use. However, the coin symbolized inclusivity in the economy, ensuring that all values, no matter how small, were represented in physical form. Furthermore, the continued minting of such coins reflected the BSP's mandate to provide a full range of denominations, even if some saw less frequent use, by tracing the design, the production, and the circulation of the 2009 10 centimo. We begin to see the layers of meaning that attach to what appears to be a simple coin. It is a link to the revolutionary ideals of Mabini, a reflection of the authority of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, a continuation of the centimo denomination rooted in centuries of colonial and post-colonial history, and finally a marker of the transition toward a new generation of currency designs that would soon follow for collectors, numismatists, and historians. The 2009 10 centimo serves as a bridge, a small copper coin that tells the story of a nation finding balance between past and future. And so, as we dive deeper into its history over the course of this long exploration, we will not only examine the technical details of its minting, its physical specifications, and its role in commerce, but also the broader historical narrative of the Philippines itself. Through this coin, we discover how even the smallest denomination can carry within it the weight of a nation's identity, resilience, and transformation, a story that deserves hours of attention and reflection. Because within this 10 centimo of 2009 is the voice of the Filipino people echoed in copper, steel, and memory to continue expanding the story of the 2009 10 centimo coin. We must place it within the broader context of Philippine monetary history, because only by looking at the long timeline of coinage in the country can we understand why such a small denomination continues to carry importance. Even in the modern era, the coin itself is not simply a tool for exchange. It is a reflection of the nation's values, the political leadership of its time, the economic circumstances that shaped daily life, and the decisions made by institutions tasked with safeguarding the economy. The design of the 2009 10 centimo is straightforward, yet layered with meaning. On the obverse, we see the bust of Apolinario Mabini, his face turned slightly to the side, his expression both solemn and resolute. His inclusion on the coin is not accidental, because Mabini is not only a historical figure, but a symbol of intellect, resilience, and the fight for national sovereignty. He was born in Tanawan, Batangas in 1864, his early life marked by poverty and hardship. Despite these limitations, he pursued education with remarkable determination, eventually becoming one of the most brilliant minds of his generation. Stricken by polio at the age of 30, Mabini lost the use of his legs, yet this did not prevent him from contributing to the revolutionary movement. His writings, his counsel, and his moral authority shaped the government of the First Philippine Republic under Emilio Aguinaldo. He argued for principles of liberty, equality, and justice. He dreamed of a nation where leadership was not based on privilege or wealth, but on merit and service. His image on the coin is therefore a powerful reminder to every Filipino that the strength of the nation lies not in physical power alone, but in the force of wisdom and conviction. Turning the coin over to its reverse side, we find the official seal of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the institution established in 1993 to replace the old Central Bank of the Philippines. The BSP was designed to be independent and tasked with ensuring monetary stability, safeguarding the value of the peso, and guiding the nation's financial system through turbulent times. The seal itself on the coin is a visual representation of trust and authority. It signals to every holder of the coin that behind this small piece of copper-plated steel stands the entire machinery of the state, ensuring its legitimacy and value. By the year 2009, the Philippine economy was in a stage of transition, The global financial crisis of 2008 had rippled across the world, and while the Philippines was less severely affected than other nations, it still faced challenges such as rising unemployment, increasing costs of goods, and the continuing struggle to stabilize. The peso in such a climate, the 10-centimo coin, though small, had symbolic value because it embodied the idea of economic inclusiveness. Even the smallest denomination continued to circulate, ensuring that commerce was possible at every level of society. Imagine holding a small copper-plated steel coin in your hand, a coin so ordinary that most people overlook it. And yet within its thin, circular frame lies a story that stretches back through centuries of history, economic shifts, political change, and cultural identity. This is the story of the Philippine 10-centimo coin of 2011, a piece of currency that at first glance seems insignificant, but upon closer inspection reveals itself as a witness to the evolution of a nation and a reflection of its struggles, triumphs, and aspirations. To understand the 2011 10-centimo coin, we must begin not with the year it was struck, but with the broader history of Philippine coinage itself, because the coin is not just a small disc of metal, but part of a lineage that traces back to the colonial period when the islands first entered the global economy under Spanish rule. The very word centimo comes from the Spanish centimo, meaning 1/100th of a peso, and it has remained with the Philippines. Even after the transition from colonial subjugation to independence during the long Spanish colonial era, the peso was divided into smaller denominations, and these centavos or centimos were crucial for everyday trade, particularly in a largely agrarian economy where small transactions defined the lives of ordinary people after the Philippines passed through American colonial rule and later Japanese occupation. The currency system underwent constant changes, reflecting the turmoil of the 20th century. By the time the nation stood independent in 1946, it needed a stable system of coinage that would not only facilitate commerce, but also symbolize sovereignty. Thus, the centimo coins continued to be minted, now bearing national heroes and local symbols as a testament to pride and resilience. Fast forward to the early 2000s. When the Philippine economy was undergoing modernization and the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas sought to standardize and simplify the design of coins. This led to the introduction of the BSP coin series, which included the 2011 10-centimo coin. This coin is made of copper-plated steel, giving it a distinct reddish hue. It is lightweight, small, and often dismissed, but its symbolism runs deep on its obverse. It carries the portrait of Apolinario Mabini, the sublime paralytic and one of the most brilliant minds of the Philippine Revolution. His inclusion on the smallest coin of the series is deliberate. It reminds every Filipino that wisdom and patriotism are not measured by size or stature. Mabini, though physically paralyzed, played a crucial role in shaping the ideals of independence, serving as the chief advisor to Emilio Aguinaldo and authoring the principles that guided the First Philippine Republic. The reverse of the coin bears the seal of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which had been redesigned in 2010, showing 3 stars and a sun, representing the nation and its people. The modern seal symbolized the authority of the central bank to regulate and stabilize the currency and to adapt to a rapidly changing financial world. The year 2011 marked a period of ongoing reforms in Philippine currency, as the BSP was already preparing for the next generation of coins. The new generation currency series, which would eventually phase out the BSP coin series by 2018. Thus, the 2011 10-centimo coin belongs to a transitional era. It represents both continuity and change continuity, because it carried forward the national symbols and heroes that Filipinos had long associated with their money and change, because it was part of a series that was nearing its end, soon to be replaced by newer coins with updated security features and fresh designs to trace the historical importance of the 2011 10-centimo coin. We must also look at its economic role. Despite its small value, the coin was essential for rounding off prices and enabling microtransactions in a country where small-scale commerce thrives, from jeepney fares to sari-sari store. Purchases. The 10 centimo coin ensured exact payment and fair trade. Although many dismissed it as inconvenient or even useless, its removal would have disrupted the entire pricing system, especially in rural and working class communities. Collectors often regard the 2011 issue as common in mintage, yet significant in its context. It reflects a moment in Philippine numismatics when design heritage and economic practicality converged. The composition of copper-plated steel also illustrates a shift from older bronze alloys to cheaper, more durable metals, ensuring cost-effective production during an era when minting expenses were carefully managed. As we examine this coin in detail, we must also consider the broader narrative of national identity. Apolinario Mabini's portrait on such a humble coin sends a powerful message that intellectual strength and moral conviction outweigh physical power or material wealth. The central bank seal reinforces the message of institutional stability, reminding Filipinos that their economy stands firm even in the face of challenges, and the year mark 2011 situates the coin within a decade defined by global financial uncertainty, yet resilience at home. If we expand our scope further, the 2011 10 centimo coin also becomes a cultural artifact because coins are not just instruments of trade, but carriers of memory. Every scratch on its surface, every hand it passes through tells a story, perhaps of a student paying for a photocopy of a lesson, or a vendor giving exact change in a bustling marketplace, or a jeepney driver counting coins at the end of a long day. Such moments accumulate to form the lived experience of a nation, making even the smallest denomination significant in ways that go beyond economics. The history of the 2011 10 centimo coin therefore unfolds across multiple layers: the colonial legacy that gave birth to the denomination, the revolutionary spirit embodied in Apolinario Mabini, the institutional power of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the transitional nature of the BSP coin series, and the daily lives of millions of Filipinos who handled this coin without much thought, yet relied on it to complete their transactions. It is a coin that speaks not with grandeur, but with quiet persistence, a reminder that history is written not only in monumental events, but also in the ordinary details of everyday life. When we piece together these threads, we find that the 2011 10 centimo coin is more than just change in a pocket. It is a miniature history book, a symbol of resilience, a bridge between past and future, and a witness to the unfolding story of the Philippines. During the Spanish era, the islands were drawn into the global economy through the Manila galleon trade. Silver pesos from Mexico flooded into the Philippines, and for centuries, these pesos defined the value system of the colony. Yet trade at the most local level required smaller denominations, and so the concept of centavos or centimos was brought into circulation to allow farmers, fishermen, craftsmen, and ordinary townsfolk to exchange goods in smaller transactions. The introduction of these fractional units was not just a financial necessity. It was also a tool of colonial control, because by circulating Spanish currency, the empire tied the daily lives of Filipinos to the broader colonial system. When American rule began at the turn of the 20th century, a new monetary system was introduced. The peso was pegged to the US dollar, and centavos were minted with distinctly American-influenced designs. Coins from this era often bore images of liberty and Filipino workers, symbolizing a fusion of colonial authority and local labor. These coins were part of a larger effort to modernize and standardize the Philippine economy, yet they also marked another layer of foreign influence in the monetary history of the archipelago. The Japanese occupation during World War II added another chapter with emergency notes and coins that reflected the harsh realities of war and scarcity. After liberation in 1945 and independence in 1946, the Philippines faced the challenge of re-establishing its monetary system. This was when the centimo coins began to take on more distinctly Filipino designs and identities, no longer just symbols of foreign control. They became carriers of national pride, with heroes, language, and cultural motifs stamped on their surfaces by the late 20th century. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the BSP, sought to update and modernize the designs of circulating coins. The aim was practicality, durability, and national symbolism. This led to the release of the BSP coin series, which included the 2011 10 centimo coin. The coin was struck in copper-plated steel, a material chosen not only for cost efficiency, but also for durability and ease of production. It was small, thin, and lightweight, making it easy to carry, but also easy to lose or dismiss. Yet despite its physical modesty, it carried powerful imagery. The obverse displayed Apolinario Mabini, one of the towering intellectuals of Philippine history. Despite being paralyzed from the waist down, Mabini rose to prominence as the brain of the revolution. He crafted the political and philosophical framework of the First Philippine Republic. His writings emphasized liberty, independence, and moral governance. His inclusion on the smallest denomination spoke volumes. It was a symbolic reminder that greatness is not determined by size but by substance, that even the smallest coin could carry the greatest thinker. Imagine holding in your hand a piece of history so small yet so powerful a coin that at first glance seems ordinary, but when you look closer, you discover it carries the story of an entire nation's journey through culture, economy, politics, and identity. This is the story of the Philippine 10 centimo coin, released in the year 2012 under the New Generation Currency Coin series. And while many collectors overlook it because of its low denomination, its history, design, symbolism, and role in the economy make it one of the most fascinating coins to explore for those who truly want to understand how coins tell stories beyond their monetary value. The 2012 10 centimo coin was part of the sweeping modernization of Philippine coinage, a response by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to create coins that were not only secure and harder to counterfeit, but also reflective of national pride and unity. The coin itself is composed of steel with a nickel plating, giving it a bright, silvery tone despite its tiny face value. The new design was meant to reflect simplicity, durability, and functionality. Its diameter measures only 15 millimeters, making it the smallest coin in the series and weighing just 1.9 grams, so light and modest that it is often ignored in circulation. Yet its design choices are loaded with meaning. On the obverse, the coin features the text, Republika ng Pilipinas, proudly displayed to symbolize the authority of the nation beneath it. We see the value of 10 centimo and the year of minting 2012. The design is intentionally minimalist because the 10 centimo coin is primarily used for small-scale transactions in everyday markets, jeepney fares, and retail shops. But simplicity does not mean insignificance, because the use of clean lines and bold text represents a modernized national image for a country looking ahead into the future while still respecting its traditional language and identity. Turning to the reverse, we see one of the most defining choices of the series, the adoption of native flora. The coin proudly displays the capiz shell, scientifically known as Placuna placenta. This shell has been historically significant to Filipino culture, not only as a natural material, used for decorative windows, lamps, and traditional crafts, but also as a symbol of transparency, resilience, and adaptation. The capiz shell embodies resourcefulness. It is fragile yet strong and adaptable, a direct reflection of the Filipino people, who endure challenges but shine through with brilliance. The placement of this symbol on the 10 centimo coin elevates what many call a nearly valueless coin into a powerful cultural emblem. The decision to highlight flora and fauna instead of political figures in this coin series was a deliberate move by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to move away from the earlier generations of coinage that heavily featured heroes and presidents. The shift symbolized inclusivity, and a recognition of the Philippines' rich natural heritage rather than just political leadership. The kapis on the 10-centimo coin joined other species featured in the New Generation series, such as the Philippine mango and the Philippine eagle. This showed that even the smallest coin could serve as a miniature museum piece, telling the story of the natural world and its link to national identity. Now, to understand the significance of the 2012 issue, we need to explore the history leading to its release for decades. Philippine coins had undergone numerous redesigns, starting from the English series after independence in 1946 to the Filipino series in 1967, then the Ang Bagong Lipunan series during the Marcos era, and later the Flora and Fauna and BSP coin series. By the late 1990s, inflation and counterfeiting concerns forced the central bank to rethink the entire coinage system. By 2012, the country needed coins that were smaller, more practical, and cost-effective. The introduction of the new series marked a modernization effort, where even the 10-centimo coin had to prove its usefulness. Although worth only 1/10 of a peso, the 2012 coin still played a crucial role in the market for small change. Filipinos frequently used it to round off jeepney fares, bus rides, and purchases in neighborhood sari-sari stores. Its value may have been tiny, but its utility was irreplaceable in a nation where every centavo mattered to millions of daily wage earners. In fact, the coin's small denomination highlighted the struggles of inflation in the Philippines, because while the 10-centimo coin had real power decades earlier, by 2012, it was already being undervalued and often disregarded by many who would rather leave it unused or accumulate it in jars at home. This paradox made the coin both common and rare, common in circulation, yet rare in terms of people paying attention to its beauty and significance. Collectors often overlooked the coin because it was too small and lacked the glamour of higher denominations or commemorative issues. But this has only added to its intrigue in modern times, because now the 2012 10-centimo coin is gaining attention among numismatists as part of complete sets of the New Generation series. Its value to collectors lies not in its silver plating or rarity, but in its role as a transitional piece representing the philosophy of modern Philippine currency design. When we analyze its legacy, we realize that this coin captures multiple narratives at once. It tells of an economy grappling with inflation. It shows a central bank embracing modernization and national pride. It reflects a people who value resourcefulness as embodied by the kapis shell. And it reminds us that even the smallest parts of the economy are essential to the everyday lives of citizens. By 2018, however, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas once again replaced the coinage system with a new generation currency coin series, this time phasing out the 10-centimo coin, entirely marking the end of its role in circulation and making the 2012 edition historically significant because it became one of the last 10-centimo coins ever issued. So when you look at the 2012 10-centimo coin, you are not just holding a small round piece of steel. You are holding the story of the Philippines in miniature form. A story of resilience, adaptation, and cultural pride. A story of how coins are more than money. They are documents of history. You may pass it by on the street or leave it forgotten in your pocket. But for those who stop to appreciate its journey, the coin becomes a timeless treasure. When we move deeper into the narrative of the 2012 10-centimo coin, we must first step back and examine the broader history of the centimo as a denomination, because only by tracing its origins can we understand why the 2012 piece is so vital to the story of Philippine coinage. The term centimo itself is derived from the Spanish centimo, which means 1/100th of a unit, and like many elements of Philippine currency, its roots go back to the colonial periods during the Spanish rule. The peso was divided into centavos, which became the official subunit even under American administration when the Philippine peso was pegged to the US dollar. The centavo remained in everyday usage. After independence, the country moved gradually toward Filipino terminology. hence the transition from centavo to centimo, yet the function remained the same as the smallest building block of the peso in the i.e. Early years after independence, coins like the 10 centavo or 10 centimo were relatively powerful in terms of purchasing value. During the 1950s and 1960s, a 10 centavo coin could buy small household goods or contribute significantly to public transportation fares. But as inflation slowly eroded the strength of the peso, the smallest denominations lost much of their real value. By the time the 1980s came along, the 10 centimo coin was already being sidelined in urban centers, yet it persisted as a necessity in provincial markets and in the countryside, where every single centavo still mattered. Fast forward to the late 1990s and early 2000s, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas recognized that the existing Flora and Fauna series coins were becoming outdated not only in design, but also in practicality by 2012. The demand for a more modern, durable, and secure coinage system was pressing. Counterfeit concerns were rising, production costs were shifting, and the everyday citizen needed coins that were lighter, easier to handle, and distinct in design. So the new generation currency coin series was born. The 10 centimo coin, minted in 2012, was the smallest in this line, yet it was also one of the most striking because of its kapis, shell emblem. Now let us explore the cultural significance of the kapis shell. More deeply, the kapis or placana placenta has long been a vital part of Philippine material culture. It was used in the crafting of traditional windows known as kapis. Windows that allowed soft, diffused light to enter Filipino homes before the widespread use of glass kapis shells gave a translucent glow that has since become iconic in the architecture of Spanish-era churches and ancestral houses in towns like Vigan, and Iloilo kapis shells were also used to craft lanterns, decorations, and handicrafts that were exported internationally, making them both a domestic necessity and a source of livelihood for artisans by choosing the kapis as the central motif. Of the 10 centimo coin, the designers were not simply placing a random shell, they were highlighting centuries of Filipino creativity, resourcefulness, and identity embedded in a simple translucent material. This symbolism elevated the 10 centimo coin far beyond its monetary value. Imagine holding in your hand a coin so small in value, yet so rich in meaning, a coin that represents not only the economic struggles of a nation, but also its resilience, its culture, its artistry, and its evolving identity. This is the story of the 2016 10 centimo coin from the Philippines. A piece of copper-plated steel that may seem insignificant to many, but once we begin to explore its history, its design, its context, and its role in the daily lives of millions, we discover that this little coin is far from ordinary. It is a silent witness to the transitions of Philippine coinage policy, the march of inflation, the story of national heroes, and the deeper legacy of a currency that continues to evolve through centuries. To truly understand the 2016 10 centimo coin, we must step back to the long history of the centimo itself. The word centimo comes from the Spanish centimo, meaning 1/100th of a unit, as the peso is divided into 100 centimo. This division mirrors the European tradition of decimal currency brought to the Philippines during the Spanish colonial period, when coins minted in Spain and Mexico circulated across the islands and laid the foundation for a monetary system that would influence the nation for centuries. By the time the Philippines achieved independence in the 20th century, its coinage had already passed through Spanish American and Japanese influences, and the centimo remained a constant symbol of the smaller fractions of money, often overlooked, but always necessary for a functioning economy. The 2016 10 centimo coin belongs to the new generation currency series, which was introduced in 2011 by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. The BSP sought to modernize Philippine coinage with a new series that reflected national identity, improved security and practicality for everyday transactions. The 10 centimo coin of 2016 was one of the smallest denominations issued, And while its face value was tiny, its symbolism was immense. It was made of copper-plated steel, giving it a warm reddish color that stood out among other denominations, designed to be lightweight and durable for circulation. On its obverse side, the coin features the stylized image of Apollinario Mabini, known as the sublime paralytic and the brains of the revolution. Mabini was a key figure in the Philippine struggle for independence, and his inclusion on the 10-centimo coin was significant because it reminded the people that even the smallest coin carried the face of one of the greatest minds in national history. Surrounding Mabini's profile is the inscription Republika ng Pilipinas, along with the year of minting, in this case 2016, and the denomination written as centimo. This design was part of a broader theme across the series, where each coin highlighted a different national hero, giving importance to figures who shaped the country's story. The reverse side of the coin carries the official seal of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, a mark of authority and authenticity. It also reflects the modern role of the BSP in stabilizing the Philippine economy, managing currency circulation, and maintaining trust in the monetary system. The presence of the BSP seal on the reverse side made each coin not just a piece of metal, but an official emblem of sovereignty and economic order. When examining the broader economic context, the 2016 10-centimo coin tells us about the challenge of small denominations in modern times. Inflation had long eroded the purchasing power of coins like the 1-centimo, 5-centimo, and 10-centimo, yet the BSP continued to issue them, recognizing their role in precise transactions and in pricing systems, especially in rural areas, markets, and public transportation, where exact change was still valued, though for many city dwellers, the coin was often disregarded or even thrown aside. Its persistence in circulation shows the Philippine government's attempt to preserve the structure of its decimal currency system and its commitment to serving all levels of economic activity. Collectors and numismatists view the 2016 10-centimo coin with a different eye for them. It represents a phase in the country's coinage history, a transitional era. When the BSP was preparing for another redesign, the New Generation Currency Coin Series, which would later be replaced by the New Generation Currency Coin Series, launched in 2018, meaning that the 2016 issue is part of a limited span of production that bridges two important eras in Philippine coin design and policy. Its value in collections may be small, but its historical role is noteworthy, as it reflects the constant adaptation of Philippine coinage to the realities of the economy. From a technical standpoint, the coin has a diameter of 15 millimeters and a weight of 190 grams, making it one of the lightest circulating coins. Its simple design and copper tone made it easy to distinguish, though its small size often caused it to be overlooked or lost in circulation, yet its tiny form carried centuries of heritage. The choice of Apollinario Mabini was not only a design feature but a statement about national identity. It reminded people that greatness does not depend on physical might or economic size. Mabini paralyzed, but brilliant, provided leadership in ideas and principles. Much like the 10-centimo coin, small but meaningful as we continue to explore its place in daily life. The 2016 10-centimo coin takes us into the markets of Manila, where vendors and customers exchanged goods and services, often counting out these coins for precise amounts. It takes us into jeepneys, tricycles, and buses, where fares sometimes required exact change. It takes us into school canteens, sari stores, and rural shops where children and families handled these coins in their daily purchases. It was not just a collector's piece, it was a working coin, a coin of the people. Its significance also extends to education, as teachers often used the 10-centimo coin in classrooms to teach children about money values, addition, and subtraction. It was a tool for financial literacy, a tangible way to connect young Filipinos to the broader economic system. In this way, the 2016 coin served both as a medium of exchange and a medium of learning. The 2016 10 centimo coin is also important for what it represents, about change itself. In 2018, the BSP introduced a new series of coins which removed human figures and replaced them with native flora. The heroes, including Mabini, were no longer featured, making the 2016 issue among the last to carry the proud tradition of national heroes on Philippine coins. This shift sparked debate among citizens. Some applauded the new modern designs, while others lamented the loss of visible heroes from everyday currency. Thus, the 2016 10 centimo coin became not only a monetary artifact, but also a cultural marker signaling the end of one era and the beginning of another. In the grand sweep of history, a coin like the 10 centimo may seem small, yet when we listen to its story, we find a reflection of the struggles of inflation, the policies of central banking, the artistic representation of heroes, and the daily life of millions of people, from the colonial legacy of the Spanish centimo to the revolutionary ideals of Apolinario Mabini to the economic transitions managed by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. This coin holds within it a microcosm of the Philippine journey. So the next time you come across a 2016 10 centimo coin, do not dismiss it as just pocket change, for in that small, copper-plated disc you hold a symbol of resilience, identity, and history. A coin that has traveled through hands of children, merchants, commuters, and collectors. A coin that tells a story far greater than its tiny value, and a coin that proves sometimes the smallest things can carry the heaviest meaning. The story of the 25 centimo coin from 1967 begins with an understanding of the Philippines during the decade of the 60s, a nation that had secured its independence only 2 decades earlier and was still in the process of building an identity that blended its rich heritage with the modern world. The Central Bank of the Philippines, which had been established in 1949, carried the responsibility not only of managing the nation's finances, but also of shaping a currency system that would be trusted by the people and respected by other nations. Coins in this period were more than just instruments of commerce. They were national emblems carried in the hands of millions, and the 25 centimo coin of 1967 was among the most circulated pieces of its era. On its obverse side, the coin bore the portrait of Juan Luna, a choice that was far from accidental. Luna was one of the most celebrated Filipino painters of the late 19th century, whose works, such as the Spoliarium, not only won international awards but also stirred nationalist feelings in the Philippines during the time of Spanish rule. His presence on the coin connected the people of the 1960s to the struggles and triumphs of their forefathers, reminding them of the sacrifices made for independence. It was a visual cue for every Filipino who used the coin in daily trade to remember the cultural and revolutionary spirit that defined their nation. This was the power of numismatic design to turn small metal discs into carriers of historical memory. The reverse side featured the national coat of arms, a symbol that combined echoes of the colonial past with affirmations of sovereignty. The American bald eagle and the Spanish lion were retained from earlier heraldic designs acknowledging the country's historical ties, but the 3 stars and the radiant sun symbolized the unity and hope of the Philippine archipelago. The coat of arms thus represented both continuity and change. It told citizens that, while the past shaped their destiny, the present and future were firmly in their hands. Physically, the 25 centimo coin was a practical piece measuring 21 millimeters in diameter and weighing around 4 grams, struck in copper-nickel alloy that gave it a silver-like appearance suitable for heavy circulation. Copper-nickel was chosen for its durability as well as its resistance to wear in a tropical climate where humidity and usage could erode softer metals. The milling on the edge of the coin added both tactile distinction and protection against clipping or counterfeiting. This careful balance of design function and symbolism made the coin both useful and meaningful. By the year 1967, the coin was deeply woven into the life of ordinary Filipinos, It was used in jeepney fares, in buying snacks in markets, in paying for small school supplies, and in countless transactions that formed the rhythm of daily economic life, while larger denominations such as the Piso were used for more significant purchases. The smaller centimo coins kept commerce moving at the grassroots level. Their constant circulation meant that they were the coins most frequently handled, and therefore the ones that carried the most wear and tear. This heavy usage is one reason why high-grade surviving examples are scarce today. But to fully appreciate the 25 centimo coin of 1967, one must see it in the wider context of Philippine monetary history. The coin was issued during the English series of coinage, which had begun in 1958 and would last until 1969. This series was characterized by inscriptions in English, such as Republic of the Philippines and Central Bank of the Philippines, but by the late 1960s, there was a growing movement to replace English with Filipino language on coins as part of a cultural policy to strengthen national identity. The 1967 coin therefore represents the final years of an era before the transition to the Filipino series, which would adopt inscriptions like Republika ng Pilipinas. This makes the coin historically significant because it stands at the threshold between two phases of currency evolution. Politically, the late 1960s was a pivotal moment for the Philippines. Ferdinand Marcos had been elected president in 1965, and his early years were marked by ambitious infrastructure projects, modernization programs, and the projection of a strong national image. The issuance of coins bearing heroes like Juan Luna fit perfectly within this vision. Marcos promoted a sense of continuity with the revolutionary past while pushing forward with his agenda of economic and social development. In this sense, coins were part of the cultural landscape, reinforcing state narratives and fostering pride in Filipino identity. The significance of this coin also extends to the world of numismatics. Collectors often categorize it within the transitional group of Philippine coins because it precedes the language shift of 1969 and because its design elements connect both to earlier series and to those that followed. While millions were minted, not many survived in pristine condition because the coin was heavily used in commerce. A circulated coin today is relatively common, but uncirculated specimens with sharp details and original luster are far rarer and thus valued more highly by collectors. Proof-like examples are even more desirable and can command significant attention at auctions and numismatic shows beyond value and rarity. However, the coin's importance lies in the story it tells about. National identity coins are often described as the calling cards of a nation because they travel in pockets and purses across all walks of life and silently communicate messages of heritage and pride. The 25 centimo coin of 1967 communicated that the Philippines honored its intellectuals and revolutionaries, that it acknowledged its colonial past while striving for sovereignty, and that even the smallest denomination could carry the weight of history. When one imagines the journey of a single 25 centimo coin struck in 1967, one can picture it leaving the mint, entering circulation, and passing from hand to hand, perhaps given as change in a bustling Manila marketplace, then used again to pay for a ferry, ride across the Pasig River, then carried by a student to school, where it bought a piece of candy from a vendor, then perhaps saved in a jar for family savings. Coins like these circulated widely through rural and urban areas, linking the economic lives of millions. Their silent presence in daily life made them one of the most democratic forms of historical record. In the broader historical arc, the 25 centimo coin of 1967 reminds us that nations are built not only by leaders and monumental events, but also by ordinary people whose daily transactions keep the economy alive. Every coin spent, every coin exchanged, becomes part of a collective narrative, and when preserved, these coins give us tangible connections to the past. In this way, The 25-centimo coin serves as a miniature time capsule carrying the voice of a people and the mark of a period that was as much about continuity as it was about change today. When collectors and historians examine the 1967 coin, they are not merely studying its weight or metal. They are revisiting a world they are listening to, echoes of markets, schools, and homes in a decade of aspiration and transition. They are seeing how design, politics, economy, and culture fused into a single everyday object. They are reminded that the smallest coin can open the largest windows into history. Imagine holding in your hand a small copper-colored piece of history, a coin that many would overlook in their daily transactions. Yet behind this humble piece lies a story that spans decades of Philippine culture, economy, and heritage. The 25-centimo coin of 1970 is not merely a fraction of a peso. It is a symbol of a nation in transition, a period when the Philippines was undergoing political, economic, and cultural change, and the country's coinage was evolving to reflect those transformations. And today, we will journey deep into the history of this coin, exploring its origins, its design, its composition, its role in circulation, and the historical context in which it was minted. Because every scratch and every mark on a coin carries the weight of the past, and the 25-centimo coin of 1970 carries with it a narrative that tells us about the people who used it, the government that issued it, and the times in which it existed. The 25-centimo coin of 1970 was part of the Filipino series, introduced by the Central Bank of the Philippines or Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which began circulating in 1967. This series was significant because it was the first time the national language Filipino was used prominently on coins. Before this series, most coins were inscribed in English, reflecting the long colonial influence of the United States. But by the late 1960s, the Philippines was asserting its cultural identity and promoting the Filipino language across all aspects of life, including its currency, and so the 25-centimo coin bore inscriptions in Filipino, showing the pride of the nation in its language and heritage. The coin itself was minted in copper-nickel, a blend chosen for its durability and resistance to wear since coins. In smaller denominations, circulated widely in everyday markets from jeepney fairs to public markets to small stores and vendors. The obverse or front of the coin carried the image of Juan Luna, one of the most celebrated Filipino painters and revolutionaries. Of the 19th century, Luna was famous not only for his art, but also for his role in inspiring nationalism during the Spanish colonial era. His masterpiece Spoliarium had won international acclaim and symbolized the suffering and resilience of the Filipino people. Placing his portrait on the 25-centimo coin was a deliberate choice to remind citizens daily of their cultural pride and national heroes. On the reverse or backside of the coin, the design featured the coat of arms of the Republic of the Philippines, a shield divided into sections showing the symbols of the country's colonial past and its aspirations for sovereignty. The sun, with its rays, symbolized freedom, while the three stars stood for Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, the major island groups of the nation. This imagery reinforced the idea of unity and independence. Every time the coin changed hands, it carried with it a reminder of national identity and pride. Now, why was 1970 particularly important for this coin series? The year 1970 fell under the presidency of Ferdinand Marcos, who had been elected in 1965 and re-elected in 1969. His administration was heavily marked by ambitious infrastructure projects, foreign loans, and a growing tension in the political climate. By 1972, martial law would be declared, changing the country dramatically, but in 1970 the Philippines was still in a pre-martial law state, a period of both optimism and unrest. The economy was experiencing inflation, labor movements were gaining strength, and student activism was rising in the universities. Coins like the 25-centimo were part of everyday transactions, but they also existed within this larger historical and political framework. The production of these coins was carried out Both domestically and with the help of international mints, the central bank sought to ensure that the coins would meet standards of durability and precision, because coins are more than monetary tools. They are ambassadors of a nation's identity, to both its people and the outside world. In fact, numismatists, coin collectors, and historians look at the 25 centimo coin of 1970 as an important artifact because it represents not just economic utility, but a record of the language, design, and historical personalities valued by the nation at the time in circulation. The coin was commonly used for small purchases. Jeepney fares were a few centavos market items, such as vegetables. Rice and snacks were traded daily with denominations like the 25 centimo, being central to commerce. Children were often given these coins as allowances, and they jingled in the pockets of ordinary citizens across the archipelago. When we think about it, every coin that passed through a market stall, a classroom, a street vendor, or a bus conductor carried not just monetary value, but also a sense of nationhood. Over time, the design of the 25 centimo would evolve as new series were introduced, such as the Flora and Fauna series and later the BSP series. But the 1970 issue remains especially significant because it was part of the pioneering Filipino series, the series that boldly asserted the use of the Filipino language and national heroes in coinage for collectors today. The 25 centimo coin of 1970 holds both sentimental and historical value while not extremely rare in its standard form. Certain specimens with unique mint errors or coins preserved in uncirculated condition command higher interest in the numismatic community beyond monetary value. However, the coin's real worth lies in the story it tells and the history it represents. It is a piece that connects us to the struggles and triumphs of the Filipino people of the late 1960s and early 1970s. So when you look at this small, copper-nickel coin dated 1970, you are not simply looking at change from someone's pocket. You are looking at a fragment of art, politics, culture, and history intertwined. The coin tells us of Juan Luna, whose art ignited national consciousness. It tells us of a government eager to display Filipino pride in its language and symbols. It tells us of an economy where every centimo mattered to ordinary people. It tells us of a nation standing at the edge of great change as it entered one of the most turbulent decades in its modern history. And as we go deeper into its story for the next 2 hours, we will explore how this coin was made, how it was distributed, what its role was in everyday commerce, how its design was chosen, how it compared to earlier and later issues, and what its legacy is today in both the numismatic world and in the collective memory of the Philippines, because the story of the 25 centimo coin of 1970 is not just about metal, it is about the spirit of a nation, stamped into every piece that passed through countless hands across generations. And in that way, this coin becomes not just money, but a timeless messenger of history. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of metal that carries the weight of an entire nation's history and identity, a coin that is often overlooked and dismissed as just a fraction of currency. But in truth, it is a witness to political change, to cultural transformation, and to the economic struggles of the people. This is the story of the 25 centimo coin of 1972 from the Philippines, a coin that may appear ordinary in size and value, but is in reality deeply extraordinary in meaning because behind its design, its material, its minting process, and the events surrounding its circulation lies a fascinating journey that stretches across decades of Philippine history. The 25 centimo coin of 1972 was released during a time of dramatic shifts. In the Philippines, the year 1972 was not just another year. It was the year when President Ferdinand Marcos declared martial law, transforming the nation's political system and changing the lives of millions of Filipinos forever. And this small 25 centimo coin became part of that turbulent chapter, silently exchanged in the markets, in the schools, in the churches, and in the everyday hands of Filipinos, it tells us about the economic policies of the era, about inflation, about the transition of the currency system, and about the identity that the government wanted to project to the people and the world. Now, to understand the importance of this coin, we must go back to the roots of Philippine coinage and trace how the centavo or centimo evolved in the Philippine monetary system. Since Spanish times, the Philippines had used coinage introduced by colonizers from Spain to America, but in 1967, a turning point came when the Philippine government introduced the Filipino series of coins, for the first time featuring Tagalog inscriptions instead of English. This was a deliberate cultural shift, a nationalist move to promote Filipino identity and language, and by the time 1972 came, this identity was further strengthened with the coinage, reflecting local heroes' Filipino names and national symbols. The 25 centimo coin stood right in the middle of this historic change. The coin itself was struck in nickel brass, an alloy chosen for durability and longevity, because small denomination. Coins like the 25 centimo were heavily used in daily trade. Its obverse proudly displayed the bust of Juan Luna, the great Filipino painter and nationalist who created the famous Spoliarium, a painting that became a symbol of Filipino resilience. And artistry, Luna was more than an artist. He was also a patriot who fought for reforms during the Spanish colonial period. Placing him on the coin gave the 25 centimo of 1972 a strong sense of Filipino pride and cultural identity surrounding Luna's portrait were the inscriptions Republika ng Pilipinas, and the year 1972, a declaration that the Philippines was shaping its own symbols and placing its heroes at the center of national life. On the reverse side, the coin bore the national coat of Arms of the Philippines, the shield divided into symbols of Spanish American and Filipino heritage, the 3 stars representing Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and the sun shining with 8 rays symbolizing the first provinces that revolted against Spain. Around the emblem was inscribed the value 25 centimo, a simple but powerful representation of nationhood and unity. But coins are never just about design, they are also economic tools. And in 1972, the Philippine economy was in transition. The Marcos administration was pursuing ambitious infrastructure projects while also dealing with rising inflation and increasing foreign debt. Coins like the 25 centimo circulated in massive numbers because they were essential in daily purchases, from jeepney fares to basic goods in the marketplace. During this time, the 25 centimo carried real purchasing power. Unlike today, when such small denominations are often dismissed in 1972, you could still buy candies, bread, or even ride public transportation with a handful of centimo coins. So the coin was not just a collector's item, it was a lifeline in daily Filipino economic life. Now let us look at the minting of this coin. The 25 centimo 1972 was minted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the Central Bank of the Philippines, which had been established in 1949 following independence from the United States. The minting process involved preparing nickel brass blanks, striking them with high-pressure dies, and ensuring uniformity and durability. Because the coin was so widely used, quality control was extremely important. The mintage numbers of the 25 centimo coin were high, which ensured availability across the archipelago. But the survival of these coins in fine condition today is relatively rare. Since most were heavily circulated and worn down by decades of use, collectors today see the 25 centimo 1972 coin as part of the historical Filipino series, which ran from 1967 to 1974, before being replaced by the Ang Bagong Lipunan series during martial law. That series carried the branding of the Marcos regime, but the 1972 25 centimo was one of the last coins before that political imprint took over. It represents a kind of transitional phase in Philippine coinage, when the emphasis was still cultural and historical rather than political. The coin's value to collectors depends on condition, mint luster, and rarity in circulation. A worn example might not fetch more than a few pesos, but an uncirculated coin with sharp details and golden brass brilliance could attract interest from numismatists, particularly those who specialize in Philippine coinage or Southeast Asian currencies beyond financial worth. However, the 25 centimo 1972 coin holds immense historical and cultural value. It is a time capsule that brings us back to a year that defined Philippine politics, society, and identity. To appreciate the coin fully, we must also consider Juan Luna's role in Philippine history. He was not only a painter, but also a reformist. Tied to the propaganda movement alongside José Rizal and Marcelo del Pilar, his works and actions helped fuel Filipino nationalism, and placing his image on the coin was a deliberate reminder that the nation was built not only by revolutionaries with swords, but also by intellectuals and artists who shaped the consciousness of the people. Every time a Filipino held the 25 centimo coin of 1972, they were unknowingly carrying with them the face of a man who embodied the struggle for dignity and freedom. As we continue to analyze this coin, we uncover layer upon layer of meaning. The material shows us the technology of minting. At the time, the design shows us the values the government wanted to highlight. The year 1972 shows us the crossroads of Philippine history when democracy shifted to authoritarianism, and the circulation shows us how ordinary Filipinos lived, traded, and survived in their daily lives. It is not just a coin, it is a silent witness, a teacher, and a story in itself. So, when we hold the 25 centimo coin of 1972, we are not simply holding brass. We are holding the echoes of the marketplace, the sounds of jeepneys, the voices of schoolchildren, the hands of workers and farmers. We are holding a symbol of national pride. At a time of uncertainty, we are holding a reminder of Filipino artistry and resilience, and most of all, we are holding a chapter of history that continues to speak even after 50 years. And that is why the 25 centimo coin of 1972 is not just money, it is memory, it is heritage, and it is a story worth telling again and again. Imagine holding in your hand a piece of history so small and yet so powerful that it carries the story of an entire nation. A coin that passed from hand to hand in markets, in schools, in transportation, in daily wages, in the lives of ordinary Filipinos. The 25 centimo coin of 1977 is one such piece, a silent witness to the political, economic, and cultural shifts of the Philippines during a turbulent decade. Now imagine uncovering the hidden stories behind its creation, its symbolism, its use, and its role in the broader narrative of Philippine currency. This is not just a coin, this is a key to understanding the Philippines in the 1970s. The 25 centimo coin issued in 1977 came at a time when the Philippines was under the administration of President Ferdinand Marcos, who had declared martial law in 1972 and ruled with a mix of modernization projects and political control. The currency system of the country was already under the oversight of the Central Bank of the Philippines, known as Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which had been working since the post-war years to modernize and unify the Philippine monetary system. The introduction of the 25 centimo coin was not merely about convenience, it was also about identity, national pride, and the effort to create a coinage system that reflected the heritage of the Filipino people. The obverse of the 1977 25 centimo coin features a profile of Juan Luna, one of the most celebrated Filipino painters and political activists of the late 19th century. Juan Luna was famous for works such as Spoliarium, which carried a deep nationalistic symbolism. He became a hero not only through his art, but also through his political engagement with the propaganda movement that worked toward reform during the Spanish colonial period. Placing Juan Luna on the coin was a deliberate choice by the government to celebrate intellectual and artistic achievement as well as patriotism. It was meant to inspire pride in cultural identity. While reminding Filipinos of their heritage, on the reverse side of the coin, the design bears the coat of arms of the Republic of the Philippines, along with the name of the country Republika ng Pilipinas, and the year of mintage, 1977. The presence of the national coat of arms emphasized sovereignty, unity, and the strength of the Republic at a time when the government sought to project authority and legitimacy to both domestic and international audiences. The denomination of 25 centimo was prominently displayed, symbolizing the practical everyday use of the coin. The material composition of the 1977 25 centimo coin was primarily copper-nickel, chosen for durability, affordability, and resistance to wear, as the coin was meant for widespread circulation in daily transactions. The size, weight, and metallic content were carefully standardized to align with the other denominations in the coinage system. Introduced in the 1970s, each coin from 1 centimo up to 1 piso was designed not only to serve a monetary function, but also to educate the public about national heroes and national identity by featuring a portrait on the obverse and the national seal on the reverse. During this time, inflationary pressures were beginning to affect the Philippine economy, partly due to global oil shocks and internal fiscal challenges. The 25 centimo coin, however, still carried considerable purchasing power. It could buy small snacks, street food, public transport rides, or school supplies. It was a coin that circulated in every pocket and in every community, from urban centers like Manila to rural provinces across the archipelago. Every Filipino child who was given allowance money, every jeepney driver collecting fares, every vendor making change was handling this coin on a daily basis. The history of this coin cannot be separated from the broader narrative of Philippine coinage reform. The 1970s marked a period of redesigning currency to reflect national heroes, artists, and leaders, in contrast to earlier decades when coins bore more generic designs or reflected colonial influences. By placing Juan Luna on the 25 centimo coin, the government sought to connect the Filipino people to their historical struggle for freedom and cultural pride. Collectors today value the 1977 25 centimo coin not only for its numismatic worth, but also for its historical significance. It is part of the Flora and Fauna series and the Ang Bagong Lipunan series that marked the Marcos era. Coinage, depending on condition, mint luster, and rarity in circulation. The coin may fetch modest collector interest, but the true value lies in its story. As a physical reminder of the past, some coins remain well preserved while others show the scars of heavy use, each scratch, dent, and wear pattern telling a story of how it traveled across time. When examining the coin in detail, the artistry becomes evident: the fine lines in the portrait of Juan Luna, the clear engraving of the national coat of arms, the bold year 1977, and the smooth edges that mark the modern minting techniques of the central bank. These details not only ensured security against counterfeiting, but also symbolized the pride taken in producing a national currency that could stand alongside other nations' coins in terms of quality and design. The coin also serves as a cultural mirror by studying its imagery, its size, its circulation, and its lifespan. One gains insights into the lives of ordinary Filipinos during the late 1970s. This was a time of shifting political landscapes, economic challenges, and cultural assertion through art and history. The 25 centimo coin carried the weight of this context. Even though it seemed small in denomination over time, the 25 centimo coin of 1977 was gradually replaced in circulation by newer designs and newer series, reflecting further shifts in Philippine currency policy. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas continuously sought to modernize coinage, reduce costs, and introduce themes more aligned with the changing identity of the nation. By the later decades of the 20th century, many of these coins were phased out, and today they are more often found in collections, displays, or forgotten drawers rather than in everyday wallets. Yet the story of the 25 centimo 1977 coin remains alive in the hearts of numismatists, historians, and collectors who see in it not just metal, but memory, not just currency, but culture. It is a testament to how something so small can tell a story so vast, and when you hold it in your hand, you are holding a chapter of Philippine history. Imagine holding in your hand a small coin that carries with it not only the weight of its metal, but also the story of a nation's journey through history, economics, culture, and identity. The 25 centimo coin of 1982 is not just a piece of currency. It is a window into the Philippines at a time when its people and government were navigating both internal challenges and global changes. The 1982 25 centimo coin was part of the Flora and Fauna series introduced by the Central Bank of the Philippines, a bold step that aimed to celebrate the nation's rich natural heritage by placing native plants and animals on the face of its coinage. This decision was more than just artistic. It was political, cultural, and economic at a time. When the country was struggling under political turbulence, the showcasing of national pride through coins became a subtle yet powerful reminder of Filipino resilience and unity. The coin itself was struck in nickel brass, a durable alloy that gave the coin a distinct yellowish hue, setting it apart from earlier issues that were typically in copper-nickel. The metal choice was strategic. It reflected a global trend of many countries moving to lower cost, but still durable alloys in order to sustain large-scale minting. During times of economic strain, the size of the coin was 20 millimeters in diameter and weighed around 3.8 grams, a carefully chosen dimension that made it easy to recognize and practical to use in everyday trade. The obverse side of the coin featured the portrait of Juan Luna, the great Filipino painter, sculptor, and revolutionary, a national figure, whose art and political involvement symbolized the intellectual and cultural awakening of the Filipino nation in the late 19th century. His stern gaze on the coin reminded every Filipino who touched it of the fight for identity and independence. This choice of Luna was deliberate. It linked the coin to ideals of patriotism and national pride. The reverse side of the coin depicted the Philippine national flower, the sampaguita, a small white flower known for its fragrance and its symbolic meaning of purity, humility, and strength. This floral symbol stood as a reminder that even in adversity, the Filipino spirit is capable of blooming with grace and resilience. The year 1982, placed at the bottom of the reverse, marked not only the minting date but also a period of global and national transformation. In that year, the Philippines was still under the rule of Ferdinand Marcos, whose regime had begun to face increasing resistance both domestically and internationally. The economy was suffering, debt levels were rising, and inflation was eroding the value of money. Thus, every coin in circulation carried with it both the burden of economic struggle and the hope of recovery. The 25 centimo coin was not just currency, it was an object of daily necessity that passed through millions of hands, buying food, paying fares, supporting livelihoods, and enabling the smallest acts of commerce in markets and streets across the archipelago. It represented accessibility because its denomination was small enough to be part of everyday exchanges, but also essential enough to keep the economic system flowing in numismatic terms. The 1982 coin was part of a significant series that collectors today find meaningful for its artistry, historical context, and symbolism. Minting numbers were high as the coin was widely circulated. Though specific mintage figures vary, collectors today often evaluate the coin based on condition, with uncirculated or proof versions being particularly desirable. It is worth noting that during this period, the Central Bank of the Philippines experimented with coin designs that emphasized national identity as a way of differentiating from earlier American-influenced currency designs. The 25 centimo coin of 1982 became an emblem of this shift from colonial echoes to uniquely Filipino imagery. When examining the coin closely, one can also notice the craftsmanship of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas minting process the clarity of Luna's portrait, the delicate detail of the sampaguita, the precise lettering of the inscription Republika ng Pilipinas. All of these elements demonstrated the technical capability of the mint as well as its commitment to producing coins that balanced utility with national pride to extend the narrative further. The coin also invites us to reflect on the broader role of minor denominations in society. Often overlooked, these small coins are the lifeblood of economies. They enable transport systems, traditional markets, and daily life for millions. They carry stories in their scratches and wear each mark, revealing how they moved from person to person, carrying history across generations. Today, as many 25 centimo coins from 1982 are no longer in circulation, they have taken on new life as collectibles and historical artifacts. Numismatists treasure them not only for their rarity and higher grades, but also for the story they tell about a nation in flux. The coin connects the world of collectors to the world of ordinary Filipinos of the past, bridging gaps between economics, history, culture, and personal memory. And so when you hold a 1982 25 centimo coin, you are not simply holding metal. You are holding the legacy of Juan Luna, the fragrance of the sampaguita, the resilience of a people under pressure, the craftsmanship of a mint, and the echoes of countless daily exchanges that kept a nation alive and moving forward. This coin is more than its face value. It is a living chapter of Philippine history, waiting to be rediscovered, retold, and remembered by every new generation that dares to look closely at what small change can reveal. Good. This is where we begin to expand the story into a longer flowing narrative, because to truly understand the 25 centimo 1982 coin, we must stretch our view beyond the metal and the mint mark and dive into the deeper stories of the time. The people, the art, the economy, and the daily lives that gave this coin its place in Philippine history. Let us take the obverse side first. Juan Luna, the man whose portrait gazes from the coin. His story cannot be told in a few sentences, because Luna was not just a painter. He was a symbol of the intellectual force behind Philippine nationalism. Born in Badoc, Ilocos Norte in 1857, Luna traveled to Europe where his artistic skills flourished in Spain. He trained at the Escuela de Bellas Artes de San Fernando, where his natural talent in painting was sharpened to professional mastery in 1884. His masterpiece Spoliarium won the first gold medal at the Exposición Nacional de Bellas Artes in Madrid. This was not just a personal victory, but a collective moment of pride for the Filipino community in Spain and a spark that fueled nationalist sentiment. The Spoliarium showed dying gladiators being dragged away, stripped of dignity and life. Many Filipinos saw this as an allegory of their own suffering under colonial rule. Luna thus became a hero, not only for his brush but also for his bravery in presenting the struggles of his people through art. By placing his image on the 25 centimo coin in 1982, the central bank honored his role as both artist and revolutionary, giving every Filipino who used the coin a connection to the intellectual fight for freedom. Now let us look at the reverse. The sampaguita flower chosen for the Flora and Fauna coin series. The sampaguita, or Jasminum sambac, has long been a symbol of purity, devotion, and simplicity in Philippine culture. Its small white blossoms are often used in garlands to honor guests, saints, and heroes. It is also connected to folklore and traditions where the fragility of its petals reminds Filipinos of humility, while its enduring fragrance symbolizes strength and loyalty. By featuring this flower on the coin, the government emphasized values that were both cultural and moral. It reminded Filipinos that greatness comes not only from power, but also from purity of heart and devotion to community. In 1934, the sampaguita was declared the national flower of the Philippines, and by the time it appeared on the coin in 1982, it was already deeply ingrained as part of the national identity. Thus, the coin itself balanced human achievement through Juan Luna with natural beauty through the sampaguita. The year 1982 was no ordinary year for the Philippines. This was the period of Ferdinand Marcos's presidency, a regime marked by martial law, political control, and economic turbulence. Although martial law was officially lifted in 1981, the political environment in 1982 was still heavily authoritarian. Freedom of speech and press remained restricted, and the economy was beginning to show cracks. Rising external debt inflation and currency devaluation were squeezing ordinary Filipinos. Thus, every coin in circulation became more than a medium of exchange. It became a symbol of the shrinking value of money, while also a lifeline for daily survival. The 25 centimo coin was small but crucial. It paid jeepney fares. It bought street food. It contributed to small market purchases, and it circulated endlessly in the lives of workers, students, and families. From a numismatic point of view, the 25 centimo 1982 belongs to the Flora and Fauna series introduced in 1983, officially, but coins dated 1982 were struck in preparation for the release. The series ran until 1994, and it marked a shift from political figures to national plants and animals combined with historical heroes. The intent was educational, cultural, and patriotic. By circulating these coins, the government spread national symbols to every household, making heroes, flowers, and animals part of everyday life. The technical details matter too. The coin was struck in nickel brass, which gave it durability, and a gold-like color at 20 millimeters in diameter and weighing 3.8 grams. It was light enough to carry in bulk, yet heavy enough to be distinguished from aluminum centavo coins. Imagine holding in your hand a small piece of metal that carries not only monetary value, but also decades of history, culture, and national identity. A coin that many people see every day in their change without realizing that it represents an entire story of a country, its struggles, its victories, and its evolving economic system. Today we dive into the 25 centimo coin of 2019, a coin that on the surface may look ordinary, but when examined closely reveals a world of knowledge, tradition, artistry, and significance that ties directly to the Republic of the Philippines and its long numismatic journey. The 25 centimo coin, issued in 2019, is part of the New Generation Currency Coin Series, a program launched by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to modernize and standardize Philippine coinage while addressing issues of counterfeiting durability and ease of use for the public. It is made of nickel-plated steel, giving it a shiny silver-like finish that makes it distinct from older bronze or brass versions of the 25 centimo denomination. The shift to this new material was both practical and symbolic. Practical, because the coin is resistant to corrosion and easier to produce in large quantities. Symbolic, because it marked a turning point in the modernization of Philippine currency design. On the obverse side of the 2019 25 centimo coin, we see the stylized Philippine flag with 3 stars and the sun, which represents unity, freedom, and sovereignty. Surrounding it are the words, Republika ng Pilipinas, and the year of minting 2019. This design represents the values of nationhood and reflects the continuing commitment of the Philippines to honor its independence and history. On the reverse side is the denomination prominently displayed with the image of the catman flower, scientifically known as Dillenia philippinensis, a native flowering plant that has cultural and ecological significance. The use of indigenous flora in coin design symbolizes national pride and emphasizes the importance of protecting the Philippines' unique biodiversity. The history of the 25 centimo denomination stretches far back before the 2019 issue. The centimo as a subunit of the Philippine peso has its origins in the Spanish colonial era, when centavos were used under the peso fuerte system later during American rule. The centavo was also widely circulated and became fully integrated into Philippine coinage. Even after independence, the 25 centimo continued as an important fractional unit serving both practical and symbolic functions in the nation's monetary system. Through the decades, the design materials and imagery of the 25-centimo coin have changed to reflect different eras of governance, economy, and culture. Before the 2019 version, earlier issues of the 25-centimo had distinct features. The 1958 to 1966 coin was minted in bronze, bearing the image of Juan Luna, the revolutionary painter and hero. Later, from 1975, during the Ang Bagong Lipunan series, the coin changed to a smaller brass design with different motifs. In the 1980s and 1990s. During the Flora and Fauna series, the coin bore the image of the Philippine jasmine. And then in the BSP coin series of 1995 onwards, it featured national heroes, like Juan Luna, again, and smaller changes in size and color. Each redesign marked a change in the identity and branding of the nation through its currency. By the time the new generation currency coin series was introduced in 2018 and 2019, the shift was clear. The coins no longer focused on heroes, but on native flora, reinforcing a sense of environmental and cultural heritage. The 25-centimo of 2019 thus became more than a small piece of change. It became an ambassador of Filipino biodiversity and a teaching tool about the country's flora. The catman flower chosen for the coin is endemic to the Philippines. Its large white blossoms and round green fruits are used in traditional medicine for treating coughs and sore throats, and it has culinary uses. As well, this small detail makes the coin a living connection between the everyday economy and the natural world. Economically, the 25-centimo coin represents the challenge of maintaining relevance for low-denomination currency in a time of inflation and rising costs of goods. While its purchasing power may be small, its continued presence in circulation helps stabilize transactions and ensures that exact change can be given in transport fares, markets, and other small-scale purchases. Without it, the public would face difficulties in basic transactions, and so while many dismiss it as insignificant, it plays a vital role in maintaining the efficiency of the cash-based economy of the Philippines. Collectors and numismatists also value the 2019 25-centimo coin, not only for its aesthetic appeal, but for its place in the timeline of Philippine coinage as part of the New Generation series. It is a marker of modern policy decisions by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and represents a transitional phase before the potential full shift to digital or cashless payments in the future. As such, the coin is both a current medium of exchange and a historical artifact in the making. The production of these coins was carried out under strict standards. The nickel-plated steel blanks were imported and struck with precision at the mint, ensuring that every detail from the catman flower petals to the rays of the sun was accurately reproduced. Millions of pieces entered circulation in 2019, making the coin accessible to every citizen, from schoolchildren learning to count change to vendors in markets to commuters in jeepneys. Beyond its design and production, the coin reflects the philosophy of inclusiveness and identity in Philippine society. Coins are often considered the face of a nation since they circulate in the hands of both locals and foreigners. The 25-centimo 2019 coin therefore carries with it the image of a Philippines that values its roots, its natural wealth, and its evolving path toward modernization. If we expand further, the story of the 25-centimo coin links us to broader questions about the future of money. What happens to small denomination coins as inflation grows? Will the 25-centimo one day vanish from circulation, or will it remain as a cultural symbol even if its economic utility diminishes? This is the same question many nations have faced with their smallest coins. For example, the United States penny or the Canadian 1-cent coin, which was discontinued in 2012. The Philippine 25-centimo thus serves as both a practical tool and a case study for economic sustainability. In summary, the 2019 25-centimo coin embodies the past, present, and future of Philippine currency. It connects us to the long history of the centimo denomination. It represents the cultural shift from heroes to flora in coin design. It carries practical importance in everyday commerce, and it raises profound questions about the role of coins in a changing world. A coin so small in value, yet so rich in meaning, that when studied deeply can provide a 2-hour exploration of Philippine history, economy, culture, and identity.